In Illinois always, and this year there's a change in divorce laws, which also changes the rules for child support payments. It could lead to some major reductions in child support payments, and joining us to talk about it is Tom Field. Tom, you are the family law chair at the Beermann Law Group here in Chicago.
That is true, Larry.
Tell me about some of the changes in the law. First of all, exactly what's changing?
So historically, since 1984, we've had a guideline law that says based on the number of children, you're going to pay a percentage of your net income for child support. And it only considered the payor's income, so the spouse who was actually going to pay the support. Big change now.
So it didn't consider the income of the other party in the divorce?
Not at all. And
so if you've got a mom and a dad, it considered, for example, the dad's income, but didn't factor in the spouse's income?
Exactly.
Okay.
So what happened now is, instead of paying based on the number of children, a certain percentage, by way of example, historically you would have paid 20% of your net income for one child. Now we've got an income sharing model, which has been sweeping across the country and has been now adopted in Illinois, which says we have to consider both parents' net incomes now. And this is a big change for us because now we have to aggregate those incomes together, and the Department of Housing and Family Services has come up with this chart. And you pick the amount out of the chart based on how many children there are, and we have to calculate that support now based on these fictitious, so to speak, figures that they've determined are average child rearing costs. So this is a significant change, and it becomes even more significant when you layer on the consideration now that if a parent has 40% or more of the parenting time, there is a further consideration where it's going to actually reduce the amount that the paying parent pays based on how much parenting time they have.
So if you do more parenting, you pay less?
Exactly.
And the one who's absent pays more?
Exactly. So it's really going to have a potentially significant impact depending on the totality of the circumstances between the parents.
What's the goal here? Is it to, it doesn't sound like it simplified it very much, but is it to move cases through the system faster, to get the child support payments flowing faster?
So I don't know that it was to flow faster. I think in regard to property in Illinois, by way of example, we're an equitable distribution state. So that term has been bandied around by the legislature a little bit to say, we think this is a more equitable way of calculating child support now, because it does consider both parties' incomes when historically it's only considered one. So whether it's simpler or not, I would argue it's not. And I think the legislature may have dropped the ball a bit in that if you're a pro se litigant, in other words, you don't have a lawyer because you can't afford one.
If you're there on your own.
You're going to have a much tougher time figuring out what your obligation actually should be.
So one of the bottom lines here, get a divorce lawyer. Don't try, just don't try and handle it on your own.
Unfortunately, every time the legislature makes changes, there are those ramifications which tend to benefit the lawyers a lot more than they probably should or were intended to.
But hopefully it's a more equitable system where if the other spouse is earning some income, they'll contribute a little bit.
Absolutely. That is the intention.
Finally, when does it take effect? Did it start January 1st, or is it coming in gradually?
It takes effect July 1st of this year. And what people need to keep in mind is that the new law does not rise to a substantial change in circumstances. And what I mean by that is that if you have an obligation that's court-ordered already, you can't use the new law to come in and seek a modification. So it's
not retroactive.
It's not. So it's going to have an interesting impact on our cases, because some of our clients now want us to delay the resolution of their case, and others want to speed up the resolution.
Okay. Tom Field, Beermann Law Group, thank you so much for your advice.
Nice to meet you, Larry.
Okay.